Hello and welcome to another 5 Good Minutes, where I answer your theological questions in 5 minutes or less. Today's question is all about the end times. Specifically, what are the major differences between the three end times views? Well, there's way too many differences to list in a 5-minute video, which I hope you know, but I will do my best to give a bird's eye perspective of the major views. The major views can be described by these terms: premillennial, postmillennial, amillennial. If you'll notice that there's the same root word in each of those terms, and it's the word millennial. The word millennial simply means 1,000 years. And so when we refer to the millennial reign of Christ, it is the reign of Christ for 1,000 years, because this is what is described in Revelation chapter 20. Matter of fact, the only place in the Bible that the millennial reign of Christ is mentioned. And it's mentioned there by the Apostle John. The major difference to understand as to why each view is worded the way it is that it is all based on the timing of the second coming in relation to the millennium. There's other questions to ask. Is this millennium literal? Does Jesus physically come to earth to rule and reign? Or is it a spiritual realized one? Is it really 1,000 years long, like 1,000 rotations around the sun? Or is 1,000 reminiscent of apocalyptic language that refers to large numbers in such symbolic ways as 1,000? What is the kingdom? Is it future or is it now? Well, let's get into the views. The first view is called premillennial, and I will just say premill for short. This view believes that Jesus returns before the millennium, that it is future, physical, and literally lasts 1,000 years. Before the second coming, there will be a tribulation, a rapture. Things get worse and worse as the time of the second coming approaches. But even in this view, there are two main camps. There's dispensational premillennial, which says that the rapture happens before the tribulation, and there is a difference or a distinction between Israel and the church. This is a view that didn't come about to the 1800s and was popularized by John Nelson Darby and the Scofield Reference Bible and by the Left Behind series of books. The historic position of the church on premillennialism: the rapture happens after the tribulation. There is not a difference or distinction between Israel and the church. That Jesus returns and sets up a literal 1,000-year reign. And some of my favorite modern theologians hold this view. John MacArthur holds dispensational premill, and John Piper holds historic premill. The second view is called postmillennial. It is the belief that Jesus returns after the millennium, hence the word post. This view holds that the gospel will continue to advance and eventually Christianizes the whole world. As the world gets more Christianized, things get better and better over time, and eventually this Christianization ushers in a golden age of Christianity, at which time Jesus physically returns to reign on earth, although postmillennialists do not believe in a literal 1,000 years, but it is a physical one, and it's in the future. And one of my favorite theologians to hold this view is Jonathan Edwards. The final view is called amillennialism. This view makes you think that there is no millennium, because millennium, no millennium, but that is a misconception. They just do not believe in a millennium that is future and physical, in which Jesus will rule and reign on the earth literally and physically. This view believes in a spiritual rule and reign of Christ, that Jesus is ruling and reigning now from heaven, that his kingdom is seen through the church ruling on earth and advancing the gospel, saving and discipling the nations. The next thing on God's calendar is the second coming, which ends the millennial reign of Christ from heaven, because he will come to earth at that time. And the millennium began at the resurrection. But let me assure you that all three views believe that Jesus does reign, that he is King of Kings and Lord of Lords and is making all things new, that he is physically coming back to this earth to usher in the new heavens and new earth. And so what is your view? Maybe some of you know and some of you don't know. Maybe some of you didn't even know there was a multiplicity of different views. In the end, we all just need to agree that Jesus is coming back. It's important to know what you believe and why you believe it. But in the end, this is not something to divide over or to separate from other Christians. As long as we all believe that Jesus is physically coming back and that he does rule and reign. It doesn't matter how you live your life now, though. And so what am I? I would classify as being amillennial. And this has been another 5 Good Minutes.